Have you ever been hurt by someone so deeply that you thought the pain would never fade, only to watch them act like it never occurred? Like your feelings, your tears, and the damage they caused simply evaporated into thin air? It's one of the most confusing, painful experiences because it feels like your pain is invisible to them. You wonder, did it even matter? Was I just imagining it? But here's the truth. This behavior, as maddening as it is not about you. It's about them. It's about what's going on inside their mind and heart that keeps them from acknowledging the harm they caused. When people hurt you and then behave as though it never happened, it's rarely because they don't see what they did. They often know exactly what they did. But facing the consequences, emotionally and psychologically, is far more difficult for them. The very idea of taking responsibility triggers a cascade of uncomfortable feelings: guilt, shame, vulnerability, and rather than lean into those feelings and deal with them honestly, many choose to block them out completely. They avoid guilt like a poison because admitting fault forces them to confront who they really are, flaws and all, and sometimes that self-examination feels unbearable. Emotional self-protection plays a huge role here. Denial is a powerful psychological shield. It allows them to act as if nothing happened and, in their mind, keep the status quo untouched. This kind of denial is like emotional armor, a defense mechanism that keeps their fragile sense of self intact. But in doing so, it leaves the person they hurt stranded in confusion and pain. This disconnect between their internal denial and your lived reality is where so much of the suffering lies. Sometimes, this behavior is a calculated manipulation tactic. People who want to control or dominate a situation may refuse to acknowledge the hurt they caused to keep power over you. By pretending everything is fine, they deny you the validation you deserve and keep you uncertain, vulnerable, and dependent on their narrative. This can be a conscious or unconscious move, but either way, it's about control. There are also those who lack empathy, not because they are intentionally cruel, but because they simply do not have the emotional capacity or awareness to truly grasp the impact of their actions. Some people are emotionally underdeveloped or disconnected from their feelings so deeply that they cannot recognize the pain they caused, let alone take ownership of it. Their inability to see your hurt is a reflection of their inner world, not a reflection of your experience. Denial can also work through repression, where the person actively pushes memories or feelings about the incident out of conscious awareness. This is not always a conscious choice, it's a survival mechanism. By repressing these uncomfortable truths, they attempt to live without the weight of past mistakes or conflicts. But this comes at the cost of leaving the wound open and unresolved for everyone else involved. It's vital to understand that when someone acts like they don't care about the hurt they caused, it isn't a reflection of your value or the legitimacy of your pain. It's a window into their personal battles with guilt, shame, fear, and sometimes their own unresolved trauma. Their refusal to acknowledge the hurt is about their own emotional struggles and limitations, not about you or what you deserve. The hardest part is learning to let go of the expectation that they will suddenly see the harm, apologize, or change. When you hold on to that hope, you keep giving them control over your emotional state. It keeps you stuck in a loop of pain, confusion, and endless questions. You start doubting yourself, wondering if maybe you overreacted, or worse, if your feelings don't matter at all. Instead, you need to shift the focus back to you. Your feelings, your healing, and your peace are what matter most. Acknowledge your pain fully. Don't minimize what you went through just because they refuse to see it. It's okay to feel hurt, betrayed, or angry. Those feelings are real and valid. Setting boundaries is crucial. You don't have to stay in contact with someone who refuses to acknowledge their actions or the impact they had on you. Sometimes stepping away is the most powerful thing you can do to protect your mental and emotional well-being. This isn't about punishment. It's about self-preservation. You cannot pour from an empty cup, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who honor and respect your emotions. Healing is a journey that requires patience and intentionality. Seek support, whether through therapy, trusted friends, journaling, or other self-care practices. Your growth depends on your commitment to yourself, not on their recognition or apology. When you focus on your own journey, you reclaim your power and build resilience that no one can take away. Remember, it is not your job to fix or explain their denial or silence. That is their burden to carry, not yours. When you accept this, it takes the weight off your shoulders and frees you to move forward with clarity and strength. You deserve peace. You deserve to feel seen and heard, even if they won't give you that. You deserve to protect your heart fiercely and to build a life where your emotional well-being is the priority. This is not just about surviving the hurt, it's about rising above it with grace and power. Understanding why people hurt you and then act like it never happened doesn't excuse their behavior, but it helps you see the bigger picture, the internal battles they fight silently. And in that understanding, you find the key to your own freedom. Now, it's time to shift your focus from seeking answers from them to finding healing within yourself. Because at the end of the day, your peace is the greatest victory you can claim. Have you ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, someone who hurt you deeply, and then acted like nothing ever happened? They smile, they move on, and the world continues spinning for them as if your pain never existed. But for you, the scar is raw, your heart still aching, your mind replaying the moment over and over. You ask yourself, how can they pretend this didn't happen? How can they be so indifferent? That feeling of being invisible, dismissed, or even gaslighted is one of the most isolating experiences a person can endure. The truth is, this behavior is not about you or your worth. It's about what's going on inside their mind, the complicated, messy inner workings of human psychology. Today, I want to peel back that curtain and expose the real reasons why people hurt you and then act like it never happened. Understanding this is the first step toward reclaiming your power, your peace, and your path to healing. When someone causes you pain and then behaves as if it never happened, the first and most common reason is that they are desperately avoiding guilt and accountability. Guilt is one of the most uncomfortable emotions a human can feel. It requires looking inward, accepting fault, and often facing consequences. For many, this is terrifying. Owning up to a mistake, especially one that harms another person, means dismantling the carefully constructed image they have of themselves. It means facing shame and possibly having to change behavior. For some, it's easier to deny or pretend nothing happened than to deal with the turmoil of responsibility. This denial isn't a conscious evil act. It's a psychological defense mechanism that allows them to protect their fragile self-esteem. They choose to avoid the truth rather than confront it. But in doing so, they leave you wounded and questioning your reality. Alongside avoidance of guilt, emotional self-protection is another powerful force driving this behavior. Imagine being so overwhelmed by feelings of shame, regret, or fear that your mind shuts down parts of itself just to survive. When people act like nothing happened, often what's really going on is that they have buried the event deep within, repressing the emotions connected to it. This repression is a subconscious effort to shield themselves from pain. They are protecting themselves from vulnerability, which for many feels like weakness or danger. This doesn't excuse their actions, but helps explain the disconnect between their outward calm and the hurt they caused you. Their denial is less about dismissing you and more about protecting their own fragile emotional state. But the tragic irony is that while they might shield themselves from pain, they leave you exposed and invalidated. Manipulation and control also come into play, especially in toxic or abusive dynamics. Sometimes, refusing to acknowledge the hurt they caused is a strategic move designed to maintain power over you. By acting indifferent or pretending the damage never happened, they keep you off balance. This tactic undermines your confidence in your own feelings and reality, creating confusion and dependence. It's a subtle but insidious way of exerting control. The more uncertain you are about what really happened, the easier it is for them to dictate the narrative. This behavior can be deliberate or unconscious, but either way, it's about power, controlling the emotional environment so they remain dominant. Recognizing this is crucial because it helps you see their behavior not as a reflection of your value, but as a manipulation tactic meant to keep you vulnerable. Another key reason people act like nothing happened after hurting you is a profound lack of empathy or emotional awareness. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. Sadly, not everyone possesses this skill to the degree necessary to truly grasp the depth of their actions' impact. Some individuals are emotionally immature or disconnected from their feelings, making it difficult for them to recognize how deeply they have hurt someone else. Their indifference is not necessarily a sign of callousness. Often, it's a sign of their own emotional limitations. They may be unaware of the pain they cause simply because they are so detached from their own emotions. This lack of insight creates a barrier that makes it nearly impossible for them to take responsibility or apologize, leaving you feeling unseen and invalidated. Denial and repression don't always operate separately. They often intertwine in a complex dance of self-deception. Some people push memories or feelings of their harmful actions so far out of conscious awareness that they genuinely don't remember or acknowledge what they did. This repression is an unconscious coping mechanism to avoid emotional distress. While this may sound like an excuse, it's more about survival for them. Facing their mistakes and the pain they caused can trigger overwhelming anxiety or shame, so their mind buries the experience deep, leaving no room for reflection or remorse. This mechanism can feel like a betrayal to you, but it's a psychological escape hatch for them. It's important to understand that all these behaviors, denial, avoidance, repression, manipulation, and lack of empathy, are about the other person's inner turmoil, not your value or your reality. The pain you feel is real, valid, and important. The fact that they refuse to see it or own it doesn't diminish your experience one bit. When someone acts like nothing happened after hurting you, it's a reflection of their fears, insecurities, and limitations, not a reflection of your worth or the legitimacy of your feelings. One of the hardest lessons to learn is that their silence or indifference is not a personal attack. It's not a sign that you don't matter or that your pain is insignificant. It's a sign that they are wrestling with their own demons, battling emotions they cannot face, or choosing to preserve their own self-position at your expense. This realization doesn't make the pain disappear, but it shifts your perspective and helps you stop internalizing their denial as a reflection of your value. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of trying to make sense of their silence or waiting for an apology that may never come. Once you recognize this, the next step is to stop trying to fix their brokenness or change their behavior. You cannot force someone to acknowledge the hurt they cause if they are not ready or willing to do so. Seeking validation or apologies from those who deny your pain only prolongs your suffering. Instead, you need to redirect your focus toward yourself, your healing, your boundaries, your peace. You deserve to feel safe emotionally. That means setting boundaries that protect you from further harm. It may mean distancing yourself from people who refuse to validate your feelings or acknowledge their actions. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out forever. They are lines you draw to preserve your mental and emotional well-being. They are your way of saying, I will not tolerate being dismissed, gaslighted, or ignored. This is an act of self-respect, not selfishness. Healing from this kind of hurt requires patience, intentionality, and self-compassion. It's okay to grieve the loss of what you thought the relationship was or could be. It's okay to feel anger, sadness, and confusion. Your feelings are the natural response to being invalidated. Don't rush past them or try to pretend you're fine. Instead, create space to process your emotions fully. Journaling, therapy, meditation, or talking to trusted friends can be powerful tools to help you unpack the trauma and reclaim your narrative. As you heal, it's essential to surround yourself with people who honor your feelings and support your growth. Community matters because it reminds you that you are seen, heard, and valued. Being validated and understood by others helps repair the wounds caused by those who refuse to acknowledge your pain. At the core of this entire dynamic lies a fundamental truth. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. You have the power to choose peace over chaos, healing over hurt, and growth over stagnation. Understanding why someone acts like nothing happened after hurting you is a key step in reclaiming that power. It allows you to detach from their denial and focus on what truly matters, your well-being and your journey forward. When you stop carrying the weight of their denial, you free yourself. You break the cycle of pain and confusion. You reclaim your right to peace. This understanding is a gift you give yourself, a way to stand tall and strong despite the wounds they left behind. The path ahead isn't easy, but it is yours to walk. You are not defined by their actions or their silence. You are defined by your resilience, your courage, and your ability to rise above. Keep your heart open, but your boundaries strong. Keep seeking healing, but stop seeking approval. Because in that space, free from their denial and silence, is where your true strength lives. It's not about you, it's about them. When someone hurts you and then carries on as if nothing ever happened, it feels deeply personal. You replay the moments in your mind, trying to understand what went wrong, wondering if you did something to deserve this disregard. But here's the harsh and liberating truth. This behavior is not about you. It's about them. Their fears, their struggles, their inability to face uncomfortable emotions. When people behave this way, they are revealing their own inner battles, not your worth or the reality of your pain. Think about it this way. Everyone is fighting a war inside their mind, battles that you may never see or fully understand. The person who hurt you and pretends it didn't happen is often wrestling with shame, guilt, or fear of vulnerability. They are trapped by their own emotional limitations and insecurities. Sometimes they lack the tools or courage to face what they have done or the damage they've caused. So instead of confronting their responsibility, they choose silence or denial, hoping to erase the incident and move forward without pain. But that's not how life works. While they might be able to compartmentalize or suppress the event internally, you are left with the emotional fallout. It's important to grasp that their indifference or denial doesn't mean your experience wasn't real or significant. You are not the problem because they refuse to acknowledge their actions. This disconnect is a reflection of their inner world, not a commentary on your value or your feelings. People who dismiss their wrongdoings often do so because facing reality would shatter their carefully maintained self-image. It's easier for them to pretend it never happened than to be honest and vulnerable. You might feel the urge to explain, to convince them to see your side, or to recognize the hurt they caused. But that energy is often wasted on people who are not ready or willing to accept it. Trying to make sense of their denial or chasing apologies can trap you in a toxic cycle where your peace is continually sacrificed. You start questioning your sanity, doubting your memories and emotions because their silence speaks so loudly. But you have to remember that you are not responsible for their inability to face their truth. This is a moment to shift the focus inward. Recognize that their behavior is a window into their unresolved fears and insecurities, not a mirror reflecting your worth. Their refusal to acknowledge the hurt says more about their character, their emotional maturity, and their capacity for empathy than it does about you. Understanding this distinction is key to reclaiming your power and protecting your peace. You deserve to be surrounded by people who honor your feelings, who don't dismiss your pain or walk away without looking back. When you internalize their silence as a personal failure, you give away your power, you allow their denial to dictate how you feel about yourself. But the reality is that their reaction or lack thereof is about their limitations, not your identity. Sometimes, the people who hurt you and act like nothing happened are also struggling with their own trauma or past wounds. They may be stuck in patterns of emotional avoidance because their own pain is too overwhelming. This doesn't excuse their actions, but it helps explain why they might shut down instead of addressing the damage they caused. They might not have the emotional tools to process what they did, or to engage in honest conversations about the hurt. This kind of emotional immaturity or unavailability leaves you without closure and trapped in a confusing limbo. One of the most painful but empowering realizations you can have is that their silence or denial has nothing to do with your value or your worthiness of love and respect. You are not invisible because they ignore you. You are not unimportant because they refuse to face what happened. Their inability to acknowledge the truth is a reflection of their own brokenness, not a reflection of your truth. When you truly accept this, it changes everything. You stop wasting emotional energy trying to fix them or waiting for them to make things right. Instead, you begin focusing on yourself, your healing, your boundaries, your growth. You learn that sometimes the best thing you can do is to let go of the need for their validation and choose peace over pain. It's essential to protect your heart by setting clear boundaries with those who refuse to recognize the impact of their act. Boundaries aren't about punishment or revenge. They are acts of self-respect and self-care. By saying no to emotional neglect and denial, you create space for healing and growth. You send a message to yourself that your feelings matter, that your experience is valid, and that you will not tolerate being dismissed. Healing from this kind of hurt takes time and patience. It requires acknowledging your pain without shame and allowing yourself to grieve what was lost. Not just the relationship, but the version of the person you thought they were. This is a deeply personal journey where you reclaim your narrative and learn to trust yourself again. Surround yourself with people who see you, who hear you, who validate your feelings. Community and support are powerful antidotes to the loneliness and confusion caused by someone else's denial. When you find those who stand with you, your pain becomes lighter and your resilience grows. Remember, you cannot control how others behave, but you can control your response. You have the power to choose healing, to choose peace, and to choose growth. When you stop making their denial about you, you free yourself to live authentically and with strength. The refusal to acknowledge what happened is a reflection of their internal battles, not your value or your truth. By understanding this, you empower yourself to move forward, to protect your heart, and to build a life where your emotions are honored and your peace is non-negotiable. You deserve that. You deserve so much more than someone who pretends your pain doesn't exist. And once you realize this, you can begin the most important work, turning your focus inward and reclaiming your power. How to protect your peace and set boundaries. When someone hurts you and then acts like nothing ever happened, your first instinct might be to seek answers or explanations, to reach out and try to fix a relationship, or to search for an apology that may never come. But the truth is, chasing those responses can keep you trapped in a cycle of pain, confusion, and emotional exhaustion. Protecting your peace starts with realizing that you cannot control others. You can only control how you respond, and this is where boundaries become not just necessary but essential. Boundaries are your emotional armor. They are the lines you draw to protect your mental, emotional, and sometimes even physical well-being. Setting boundaries isn't about punishing others or closing yourself off from the world. It's about saying to yourself, I am worthy of respect. My feelings matter. I will not allow anyone to dismiss or invalidate me. Boundaries create a safe space where healing can begin, where you regain control of your emotional environment and reclaim your power. But setting boundaries can be incredibly challenging, especially if you've been hurt by someone close to you. Maybe you've been told that boundaries are selfish or that they make you seem cold or unforgiving. Let me be clear. Boundaries are not selfish. They are self-preserving. When you establish healthy limits, you are prioritizing your well-being and demanding the respect you deserve. If others don't respect your boundaries, that reveals their true character and their willingness or unwillingness to honor you. The first step in setting boundaries is to get very clear with yourself about what you will and will not tolerate. This requires honest self-reflection. Ask yourself, what behaviors from others hurt me? What actions trigger my pain or anxiety? What emotional needs are not being met? When you identify these patterns, you can begin to define specific boundaries. For example, if someone repeatedly dismisses your feelings or gaslights you, a boundary might be limiting your conversations with them or refusing to engage in discussions that undermine your reality. Once you've identified your boundaries, communicate them clearly and calmly. You don't owe anyone a long explanation or justification for protecting your peace. A simple, firm statement is enough. I will not engage in conversations that make me feel disrespected, or I need space from interactions that hurt me. The way you communicate your boundaries is a reflection of your confidence and your commitment to yourself. It's important to remain consistent. Boundaries lose their power when they're broken repeatedly or ignored. It's also important to prepare yourself emotionally for the reactions you might get when you set boundaries. Some people will respect your limits immediately, but others may resist or push back. They might guilt trip you, accuse you of being difficult, or try to manipulate you into abandoning your boundaries. This is a test of your resolve. Remember, the discomfort or anger they express is a reflection of their inability to cope with your autonomy, not a reason to compromise your well-being. In protecting your peace, sometimes the most powerful boundary you can set is to distance yourself from toxic relationships altogether. Walking away from people who consistently hurt you and refuse to acknowledge it is not a failure. It's an act of courage and self-respect. Removing yourself from harmful environments frees up space for growth, healing, and healthier connections. Healing requires active choices every day to nurture yourself. Invest time in practices that center you, whether it's therapy, journaling, meditation, exercise, or creative outlets. These are not indulgences. They are essentials for rebuilding your emotional strength and clarity. When you engage in self-care, you reinforce the message to yourself that you are valuable and deserving of love and kindness. Another crucial element in protecting your peace is to build a support system of people who validate you, who see your pain and stand by you. Surrounding yourself with empathetic, understanding friends or mentors creates a buffer against the damage caused by those who deny or dismiss your feelings. Community is a powerful healer because it reminds you that you are not alone and that your experience matters. It's also vital to develop emotional resilience. Resilience is not about avoiding pain or pretending to be invulnerable. It's about acknowledging your hurt, processing it, and choosing to move forward without carrying the burden of someone else's denial. This takes time and patience, but with every step you take toward healing, your inner strength grows. You learn to trust your intuition again, to set clearer boundaries, and to refuse to accept less than you deserve. Protecting your peace doesn't mean you will never be hurt again, but it means you are equipping yourself to respond differently when it happens. Instead of spiraling into confusion or self-doubt because someone denies their wrongdoing, you stand firm in your truth. You honor your emotions without needing validation from those who won't give it. This shift is empowering because it places you back in the driver's seat of your emotional life. You might feel isolated or guilty for prioritizing your peace, especially if the person who hurt you is family or someone you care about deeply. But your well-being must come first. When you protect your boundaries and your heart, you create the foundation for healthier relationships, not just with others, but with yourself. This is the cornerstone of emotional freedom. Learning to say no, to walk away, and to put your needs first is a radical act in a world that often tells us to endure, forgive, and tolerate hurt without complaint. But tolerating dismissal and denial isn't strength, it's surrender. Real strength is in recognizing your worth and refusing to let others diminish it through their silence or neglect. Remember, boundaries are living things. They may evolve as you grow and heal. What you tolerate today may change tomorrow, and that's okay. Being attuned to your emotional state and adjusting your boundaries accordingly is a sign of wisdom and self-awareness. Never feel obligated to stay in a situation that compromises your peace. In the end, protecting your peace and setting boundaries is about reclaiming your life from those who have tried to rob you of your voice and your value. It's about choosing to honor yourself even when others won't. And as you do this work, you build a fortress of self-respect and emotional strength that no one can breach. This process isn't easy, but it's necessary. It's the foundation on which your healing, growth, and future happiness stand. When you commit to protecting your peace and setting firm boundaries, you send a clear message to yourself and to the world that your heart will not be a playground for denial, dismissal, or disrespect. This is your life, your story, and your healing. And it starts with the boundaries you set today. Understanding their silence or denial is not just a moment of clarity, it's a profound turning point. It frees you from carrying their pain as if it were your own. When someone refuses to acknowledge the hurt they caused, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that their silence means your pain doesn't matter. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Their denial, their pretending, their cold indifference, none of that diminishes your experience. It only reveals their inability to face reality. And when you finally see this, when you truly grasp that their silence is about their inner struggles and not about your value, you take the first step toward reclaiming your peace. You have been carrying a burden that was never yours to bear. You carried their guilt, their avoidance, their refusal to face the consequences of their actions. You carried the confusion and the longing for an apology that may never come. And all of this weight has been heavy on your heart, clouding your mind, draining your spirit. But you don't have to carry it anymore. You can set that burden down. You can stop being the keeper of their secrets, the holder of their denial. You are free to choose a different path. A path where your peace is the priority, where your healing is the focus, and where your worth is undeniable. Protect your heart fiercely. This is not a passive act. It is a deliberate and courageous choice. To protect your heart means to be vigilant about who you allow into your inner circle, who you allow to influence your emotions, and who you allow to define your sense of self. It means refusing to accept disrespect in any form, even if it comes wrapped in silence or denial. Because silence can be just as harmful as harsh words when it dismisses your pain and invalidates your reality. Stay aware. Awareness is your armor. When you understand the psychological games that some people play, the denial, the manipulation, the avoidance, you no longer fall victim to them. You see them for what they are, and that clarity protects you. It helps you set boundaries that keep your emotional well-being intact. Awareness also means recognizing your own patterns, knowing when you are holding on to pain that isn't yours to carry, knowing when you are giving away your power by waiting for validation from someone who will never give it. This kind of insight is transformative because it shifts the power back to you. Stay strong. Strength isn't about being unbreakable. Strength is about resilience. The ability to rise every time you fall, to stand tall even when you feel fragile, to keep moving forward when the weight of hurt threatens to stop you. Strength is also about vulnerability, being honest with yourself about your feelings, allowing yourself to grieve, to cry, to feel anger and sadness without shame. It's about honoring your humanity, and it's about recognizing that the person who hurt you and acts like nothing happened is often acting out of their own pain and limitations. Your strength comes from knowing that you will not be defined by their actions or their silence. The journey from pain to peace is not linear. There will be days when you feel like you've made incredible progress, and days when the hurt seems fresh all over again. That's normal. Healing isn't about forgetting or pretending it never happened. It's about learning to live with your past without letting it control your present or dictate your future. It's about rewriting your story where you are the hero, not the victim. Every small step you take towards healing is a victory. Every moment you choose self-care over self-doubt is a triumph. And every time you stand firm in your boundaries, you reclaim a piece of your power. One of the most liberating realizations is understanding that you don't need their apology to move on. Waiting for someone else to acknowledge your pain puts your life on hold. It keeps you stuck in a limbo of hope and hurt. But healing happens when you stop seeking external validation and start trusting your own experience. You are the expert on your feelings. You know your truth better than anyone else. When you accept that, you empower yourself to heal on your own terms. Focus on your growth. Use this experience, painful as it is, as a catalyst for your personal evolution. Pain has a way of breaking us open, but it also creates space for transformation. You have the chance to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate, not just toward others, but toward yourself. Let this journey deepen your self-awareness and teach you to value your emotional well-being above all else. When you invest in your growth, you turn wounds into wisdom. Surround yourself with people who see you, truly see you, and honor your feelings. Seek out those who offer empathy, who listen without judgment, who hold space for your pain without rushing you to move on. Connection is a powerful healer because it reminds you that you are not alone. It restores your faith in humanity and your belief in yourself. These relationships become the balm that soothes your heart when the memories sting and the silence feels unbearable. Remember, forgiveness is a process, not a destination. Forgiving those who hurt you doesn't mean excusing their behavior or forgetting what happened. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the grip of resentment and anger so that you can reclaim your peace. It's about releasing the control their actions have over your emotions. And sometimes, forgiveness is something you do quietly within yourself, without announcing it to the world. It's a gift you give to your future self, a way of choosing freedom over bondage. As you continue on this path, be patient with yourself. Healing takes time, and it doesn't follow a schedule. There will be moments of clarity and moments of confusion. There will be tears and there will be laughter. Allow yourself to experience it all without judgment. You are growing through this. You are evolving, and with every step, you are moving closer to a place where your peace is unshakable. Your heart has been through a lot, but it is resilient. It can mend, it can grow, and it can love again, stronger and wiser than before. Protect it, nourish it, honor it. You owe that to yourself. So hold on to this truth. Their silence, their denial, their pretending that nothing happened is not your cross to bear. It is their own burden, one they may never choose to carry, but that is their choice and their limitation, not yours. When you stop carrying what's not yours, you free yourself to live fully, freely, and fiercely. Stay aware, stay strong, protect your heart. Your peace is the greatest power you have, and with that power, you will rise.